All right, so I give the stage to Alessio.
Yeah, so given that I don't really know Maxim very much at all personally, okay? So I don't have any anecdotes of any kind to tell you. I only really know him through his work, and but we're mathematicians, and we love maths, and I love his maths, and uh, like you and lots of other people, in my own way, I've been over the years, I've been trying to move closer to him. Okay, let me put it like that. So if that's okay, let me start my talk. Hopefully this is going to work. So okay, so anyway, I'm interested. I haven't done this in a long time. I'm interested. Sorry, my handwriting is what it is. In optimal criteria for smoothing a toric Fano threefolds. And maybe something a bit more general than smoothing. So perhaps deforming to one that has a terminal quotient, or maybe just quotient without even the terminal part. So let me just say, why, Alessio, why are you interested in this? So on one hand, I'll say just two things about this. On the one hand, I'm interested in this as a method for constructing and perhaps classifying Fano varieties. Well, I said threefolds here. I'm also interested in fourfolds. And the thing is that we don't know how to construct these things. And whereas this method eventually, hopefully, will be the main method to construct them. And the other thing I want to say is, I hope you can read. Can you read?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. So the other thing I want to say is that I'm interested in the Fano Landau-Gisborne correspondence. And so, ideally, I would like it to be a theorem that says something like there is a one-to-one correspondence between these things, the A side, and these other things that are B sides, and literally, a one-to-one correspondence, and then it always then you have all the expectations that you have about this. Okay? And I would like to be as general as possible, not just that this particular thing is mirrored to this particular thing, but there is the larger ideal most general class where we can precisely state this thing. So and this is my training ground for going in that direction. So I'm completely okay with being interrupted. All right, I don't have any problem with that. So please do if you want to. So I'm going to do something a bit strange today. I think I had some good conjectural statement, but I'm not going to tell you because otherwise it's going to take me the whole hour or more. And instead, I'm going to try to give you the idea of the proof, okay? Which is being worked on. But so that at least I say something is, let me just say one thing here precisely. So there is one such statement in the literature. And so this is my work with Paul Hacking and Andrea Petracci. I put in the archive just before Christmas holiday. And it works more or less like this. There's some theorem there, which states that, start from P 3D reflexive polytope. And with a crucial assumption such that for every facet of P, you have a Minkowski composition F equal sum Fj. So there exists a Minkowski decomposition, integral Minkowski decomposition, that facet, where Fj is what we call an A triangle. So it's a lattice polygon. So a polygon in Z2 that looks like this. Every factor is a triangle. And then there is another condition that I'm not going to state, relatively mild, compatibility condition. It's stated in terms of what we call blunt edges. So if a polytope has a blunt edge, they're not very sharp, then you need some additional combinatorial condition satisfied. And given this data, then the singular Fano variety XP is smoothable under deformation. And we also have some other results that provide a perfectly good technology to compute the topology of the smoothing. This is pretty good. So it turns out that there are millions of examples of this kind of data, and it really is very practical, okay? But it is not optimal. So, for example, we know that if polytope has a face, or a facet, sorry, trying to be consistent with my own terminology. If polytope has a facet that looks like this triangle here, it's a perfectly good triangle that does not further Minkowski decompose into A triangles, okay? And yet, there's no obstruction to smoothing a Fano variety that has this thing on it. And in fact, there are two ways to do it, but let me not go into that. Okay, so this was to just give you something, okay? Because really, I want to talk about.
So
yes.
First, respond to isolated singularities.
No, so that's an extremely important point. So this one the kind of singularity, the non-isolated singularity.
That curve.
Yeah. Yes, there are long curves, and you see them on the edges that are not unit one. So here on this particular one, there is an A1 curve and an A2 curve, and also on a one of these AN triangles corresponds to an AN curve there. The thing is that isolated singularity tend to be very rigid under deformation. It's absolutely essential that we allow non-isolated singularities, and that's where all the pain lies. So I'm going to talk about work with work in progress. It's been in progress for years already, but never mind that. With Helge Ruddat. Towards what I think is going to be the optimal criteria. So I'm not going to tell you what the criterion is, okay, but I'm going to tell you how we are working on proving it. You good? So, so we start. I forgot something. So the starting point is always a polytope, a lattice polytope. And assume that 0 is contained in the interior and that the vertices are primitive lattice vectors. So out of this, you make a toric. P is the anti-canonical polytope of a Fano variety called X, so X sub P. So that's a toric variety where the fan is the spanning fan of P. So P, let's call it N. And so X is a irreducible normal Fano variety, and somehow what we're doing is not smoothing X directly, but make it a bit more degenerate. So one way to describe this is to take the polar polytope Q equal the polar of P inside M. So Q is now the moment polytope of a Fano variety, the Fano variety X. And we take the central subdivision of Q. Star Q is the central subdivision of Q. So, for example, if Q is a polygon, we are subdividing polygon Q through the origin in the crudest, coarsest possible way. So that's a polyhedral complex in M, and we let star P. So is a variety such that this is its moment complex. Okay, So it has several components, one for each of the cells of star Q. And it is a further degeneration of P.
You're not assuming it's a reflexive system.
No,
Vertices
no.
Could be
This is-
rational, yeah?
Huh?
Vertices of Q could be rational points, not integer.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So then let's star P to be the corresponding variety, and the goal is to smooth star P. Or to deform star P. Okay, so step one. So somehow we start out by following in the footstep of the Gross-Siebert thing. And so step one is endow star P with a log structure. Singular log structure that we're then going to try to smooth. And so I'm not going to go into, I'm not going to discuss log structure or anything, but I do want to zoom in of what I consider to be the main issue with this thing here. So what's a log structure? Well, it's something complicated, but there's something called the sheaf of log structure, LS. These are log structures on star P. And this is a subsheaf of something which is a sum, direct sum over the codimension 1 strata. So T. So there's something, no, I don't want that, I want my pen. So it's a sum over T in star P, codim 1 strata. So here, this would be this, this is a picture of a surface, and the codimension 1 strata are these curves here of certain line bundles on T. Okay, and this LS is given inside the direct sum by a condition, which is a compatibility on joints, where more of these codimension 2 strata come in, and here is only one at the origin here. Okay, so here's a key example. And, those line bundles L sub T has something to do with the normal bundles of T. It's the two components where T sits, but it's it's a lot trickier than that, and let's not worry too much about this. Here's a key example in 3 dimensions. So on the P side, we could have one of these AN triangles. For example, you have a facet of P that looks like an AN triangle. For example, an A1 triangle like this one. Okay, then on Q, or star Q, that corresponds to a situation like this, where you look at the normals, the inner normals, and so the inner normals are this one, and then the inner normal of that one, which is this line here. So you have a situation like this, and so we are in 3D. So you have 3 surfaces that meet along a line, a curve that looks a bit like this. Okay, so in fact, you imagine that, so this is a facet f of p, and this maybe is a vertex, the corresponding vertex of q, the vertex corresponding to f. And then this join where these three surfaces come together is going to go all the way to the origin in the lattice, in the dual lattice M. Okay, so you have to imagine it's all going all the way to the origin. But here, so literally, this is a picture of three folds that meet together along this line, this curve, and those surfaces that you see there. Okay, so the log structure is going to be given by some sections of some line bundles on those surfaces. And to be a bona fide log structure according to the definitions in the thing, that section is a never vanishing section. But in fact, actually, this is going to be a singular log structure. So that section will vanish somewhere. And it vanishes like, let me take a picture where, so there is a point where it vanishes. And so, you may have, well, that's exactly the one I should not have done first. So let me go back. So you may have a great. Okay. So the yellow curve is the zero set of this section of the log structure. In order to be satisfying this joint compatibility, then the zero curves have to meet here. And if you look into the literature, the Groth-Siebert thing, what needs to happen is that the zero curve on this vertical wall has to be tangent at that point, has to have multiplicity at that point. Okay, so that's the most general thing that satisfies the requirement for a log structure to exist. And the sour grapes here is that this log structure is obstructed. It has no deformations. This is not something we find inside Groth-Siebert. The thing is that that curve need not just be tangent, but for this to deform, to smooth, you need to have two branches there. So so it needs to look a bit like this. It needs to have two branches. So let's elaborate on this point. I first heard about log structures in the early 1990s, okay? And one cool thing about log structures is, well, so I was familiar with the fact that if I look at the type 3 K3 surface, then the deformation space of type 3 K3 surface has two components that meet. And one of these components is an enormous component where what you're doing is you're moving the components of the type 3K3 without changing the dual graph of it. And the other component corresponds to genuinely smoothings of that type 3K3. So the cool thing in that context of that a log structure does is that it picks out the smoothing component. And the other component, the component where you're just moving the surfaces, the log structure does not deform into that component. So it doesn't see it. So you have a moduli space that's ill-behaved, and if you use log structures, then it magically makes it perfectly well-behaved and beautiful, and it throws away the nasty deformation you don't want. So that was encouraging, and one of the reasons why we kept working on this log structure thing Now, the thing that happens in this case is that you have, after all, this is some variation of the A1 singularity. So it's a perfectly good modular space, perfectly smooth, fantastic. And then when you introduce log structure, it completely screws it up because you can deform the log structure into where the two components become a parabola, and then you're deforming the direction that's not smoothable and doesn't go anywhere. And then on the other hand, this one here, so if you look at this particular singularity, the modular space of log structure has two components. One is nice, and the other one is complete rubbish. So this is something where log structures take a very nice modular space and completely ruin it. Okay, so that I thought was interesting. This is the main point. Okay, so I'm not going to tell you, but we think we know exactly what log structures will smooth. But that's not the subject of this particular. Just write it down. Helge, we think we know what log structures will smooth. So anyway, that was step one. You still end up start with the log structure. And step two, so we cannot somehow work and try to smooth this log structure directly because it is so badly behaved. And after trying for a while, we decided we're going to give up. And instead, construct a log crescent log resolution of star x. So star x now is a log scheme, and we want to find another log scheme, y dagger. And where hopefully y dagger is smooth, and this is a log crescent map. So so we want to do some log birational geometry. So when exactly do I have to finish here?
10:25.
Oh, wow, that's good. Earlier in that. So, let's okay. So anyway, so let me start with a simple example here to get ourselves warmed up. The simplest example. Okay, so if you like, what I'm going to do next, I'm just going to do some examples of these log birational geometry and log resolutions. Okay, and then the step 3 is easy. If you can find such a log resolution, then y is log smooth, and so it'd be much easier to deform y. So, and that was sort of the end of the whole thing. So, for example, in the surface case, you may want construct a cubic surface. Well, you already know that it exists. Well, never mind that. And so you start with a polytope P, for example, that looks like this polygon. That's your P. The origin has a little cross there. And it's so this is the anticanonical polytope of a cubic surface that has three A2 singularities. Yeah, so as I said earlier, we're supposed to be taking the base fan of P. So this is the fan of the cubic surface in N. So here we are in N. So the polar polytope, I take the inner normals to those sides, and that's Q. Q is the polar in N. And so this is indeed the moment polytope of that cubic surface X. And if you know, I mean, I've looked at this. It already it speaks to me somehow. And so I see the equation of X as X naught cube minus X1, X2, X3. Okay, so that's an equation. That's this cubic surface 3A2 singularities. So the central subdivision then is going to look like this. And so then star P is the union of three planes, as you see them pictured. Star P is three planes. So I really should have done that picture quite a bit bigger. Maybe I should try again. One thing that's nice about the iPad
is it star P or star Q?
Star P is star X. You're right.
And because also
it's star X that it's the union of three plane. I call this.
Earlier also you said that you're trying to smooth star P, but it's actually star Q.
I try to smooth star X. So this is a picture of star Q now. Yeah, sorry. Did I write star X or star? Yeah. So it's possible that, yeah. For example, here I didn't mean star P, but I meant star X. These are strata in star X. That's good, and it's not that I'm trying to smooth star P, of course, but I'm trying to smooth star X. Star X being the generation of X, which has moment complex star Q. Okay. So thank you. So now we have to put a log structure on this thing, and that has to do with put some sections, some line bundles, and in this case, if you look at the P picture, each of those sides is 3 times a unit segment, and somehow that's telling you that on each of those lines you put a section of O3. And so a section of O3 will have 3 zeros. Choose a general enough section, then it will have 3 zeros on each of those lines. And again, the official theory is that at those points there is no log structure. And my point of view is that there is, but it's singular. Okay, and you know, but then what's a singular log structure? So. So what's a log resolution of this thing is, well, so I'm blowing up each of those points on one side only. So I blow them up on one side only. And then those guys are also blow up on one side only. And if I do that, then the blown up thing, I'm gonna call it Y, and there is a unique log structure, completely canonical on that Y, which is now a bona fide log smooth, which is the same outside of the yellow lines, is the same of the log structure on X outside of the crosses. Okay? And so that's a picture of a log resolution. So get Y dagger to star X. So now star X has a log structure. That's a log resolution. So now I want to do some more interesting examples. Okay, so here now are some. So, you know, I should say that that picture ultimately will be familiar to a lot of you, okay? And what happens is if I take a cubic surface, you know, 3 planes, and I try to deform it to a smooth, to a general cubic surface, then, you know, the general fiber, for example, I make a pencil cubics, then the total space of that thing will have 9 singular points, that threefold corresponding to those little crosses, okay? And so the total space is singular, it's not a log smooth space. And if you take small resolutions of that total space, that's the picture you get, okay? So we'll be completely familiar with this. Now, I'm sorry about this. So that's not part of the talk. So that's easy to understand what's going on there because there is a total space. And we know how to make a smooth, the smooth cubes. The whole point of this is eventually graduate into a situation where we can do this just with the log scheme when we don't have a total space. In fact, where we're using this as a way to construct the total space. So, so for example, for threefolds, the simple situation where X might have 2 components, X1 and X2, that meet along its surface. And then in there, you have a curve where there is no log structure, or there's a singular log structure. And then this is, you know, you just promote from the surface case, and what you're gonna do here, you blow up that curve on one side only, like for example on X2. And when you do that, then you've resolved it. So I don't know if that counts as example 1 or example 0 or whatever. Now the thing when you do threefolds, you immediately realize that, or quickly realize that you could Well, this picture is not coming out. So that's one thing that's good about the iPad. So you could have three threefolds meeting in a curve, a join. And then you had to face the situation where the singular curve does this, okay? And then here's how you can resolve that. So you blow up. Okay, so these again are threefolds, x1, x2, and x3. Okay, so you look at the yellow curves where x1 and x3 meet, and x2 and x3 meet, and you blow them up on one side only, and then you get a picture a little bit like this. Of course, that's blowing up the yellow curve in x2, in the triple x2, that will blow up also the surface where x2 and x1 intersect, and introduce this p1 inside that surface. It wasn't there before. But if I blow up the curve x1 intersection x3, the yellow curve in x1 intersection x3, in x1, then I'm able to glue everything back together, okay? And at this point, let me just draw in red the place where the log structure is singular. The vertical yellow curve is now sort of like that. And so we are back into a situation like in the previous example. And if I blow that on one side only, then I'm done. So all of this is not too hard. And so this is the first truly interesting case. And you know, and it is it is again this A1 singularity that we had before. So this one here, okay? Oops, that one. So how can we resolve this? So we have this. So these are moment pictures in the moment polyhedral complex. So they says a lot about who these people are. So here, again, I have three threefolds meeting on this curve. The threefold here is A3. That's a picture of A3. The threefold here is also A3. But not the threefold here. Down here is it's like a1 singularity, xy plus w squared equals 0 times a1. So the bottom component is singular along this curve. Okay, the other two are non-singular along that curve. And as I said, when you understand how to make a log structure on this thing, so it's actually crucial that you deal with things of this nature, because isolated singularities tend to be very rigid at deformations. So this you have to absolutely go here, and especially then if you want the optimal criterion that I'm looking for. So the simplest way to resolve this thing is to leave alone the singular component. So the one that's the A1 singularity times A1, you just don't touch it, okay? And so in the first instance, so let me just give names to these components. So this is x1, call this one x1, this one x2, and this one down here and call it x3. You just don't touch x3, and there is a way to resolve this thing without touching x3. And you just, in x1, I don't know why it's doing all those little boxes around. I want to get rid of it. Okay. So in x1, you blow up the curve where x1 intersects on the surface where x1 intersects x3. And in x2, you also blow up the yellow curve on the surface where x2 intersects x3. And they're just smooth threefolds, so it's easy to understand what happens when you blow up. And so I'm drawing a picture here. So you blow that up and then introduce an exception value like that. And over here, you also blow it up. So you get an exception value like that. And then the log structure is still singular on two curves that somehow meet transversely. These are curves on the, well, if you call these if you call these y1, y2, and y3, well, that's not the final y, so it'd be y1 prime, y2 prime. Then we're on the surface where y1 prime and y2 prime meet, you have those two red curves. And there are still places where there's log structure is singular. But then at this point is easy, you know what to do. You just blow them up on one side on, either on y1 prime or y2. Okay. So in fact, these guys do admit resolution. And so the fact is that, on the other hand, if you took the generic log structure where up here, instead of two branches, you just have one branch which is tangent there, then this one here does not have a log resolution. So there is one thing, however, and it is that, so locally we found the resolution of this thing, log resolution of this thing. Now the question is, though, that when we form star q and therefore star x. What we really need here is a global log resolution. And it may not be easy to patch this one together with some other ones. And because of that, then you need to learn to make other log resolutions. You need, in fact, a whole zoo of log resolutions. And so here, that's where I get, so let me just sort of mention that even with these simple AN singularities, you get yourself into, for what it's worth, I'm gonna tell you about this. So in the AN case, so it looks a little bit like the A1 that I just did, except that now here I'm gonna have to have n branches. So I'm just gonna sketch. There exists a resolution that looks like this. I'm going to put log resolution in inverted commas. Then where on x1, there is a way to blow up in one step all those n branches and also the curve where x1 meets x2. And, you know, I don't really know how to draw it. But it's going to look like something relatively monstrous where here I blew up all those things. But also on this, this curve gets blown up. And I'm not even sure how to draw this. Okay, something pretty wild. And this isn't this thing you're not going to be able to glue directly all together. You're only going to be able to glue it after you also blow up that curve there on x3, and so then it forms a picture like this. Okay, and so the very existence of this birational math is a rather non-trivial thing. It was the main content of the work thesis of Tom Duckett about 10 years ago. And the other thing here is that this space y here is not exactly log smooth, but it has a singularity 1 over n, 1, 1, minus 1, minus 1. Okay. So it looks like, so those are x, y, z, and u. It looks like x is t equal x, z inside that space. It's not smooth, it's not log smooth, but it's a log smooth stack, okay? And it's okay. You can live with it. Some can live with it. So not technically. So it's a log smooth modulo a finite group. Mu n. Okay, so let's try to sort of summarize this. So there's going to be this is you're going to hear us talk about this for quite some time, as hopefully we will be able to put together all this thing into something that with maximal level of generality, we know which log structure admits a resolution and we can construct it. And then not just locally, but also globally inside star X, we can make the resolution, okay? And so, you know, hopefully we're gonna be able to put this together. We, you know, lots of examples now and still sort of. Yeah, so hopefully there's enough of a theory out there that we can pull this off. And so something that I find, let's just say this, okay? My belief in this comes from the fact that we want something that is able to have some Gromf-Witten theory, okay? So why do I think that the log resolution even exists? Is because in the mirror symmetry picture, then you ought to be able to read the Gromf-Witten theory of the smoothed variety from the singular degenerate variety. And so that thing needs to be able to have a Gromf-Witten theory of some sort. Okay. Now, there are those out there who think that sometimes you can do log Gromf theory with a singular space. I think that's a bad idea, okay? I think if something is smooth, it will have Gromf-Witten theory. And if it's log smooth, it will have Gromf-Witten theory. Otherwise, you can think about it if you want, but I'm not coming with you there, okay? And so that's why I think there ought to be a log smooth thing. And so these things are capable of having a log Gromf-Witten theory. And so, you know, there are some interesting questions. We haven't studied this, but here are, so, you know, I've told you two ways to resolve the A1. One is by this way, and one is by this other way. And they both capable of having log Gromf-Witten theory. One in the sense of log stacks, log smooth, log stack, whatever. And they should be on the nose the same, okay? But I'm not claiming that I can see that at this time. Now, to conclude, so that would be, so, okay, so remember is I'm going to tell you how to prove the theorem that I didn't even state. And this was step 2. Step 1, okay, so you start with a polytope, you take XP, take the central subdivision of the polar, you degenerate X to this star X thing. Step 1, put the log structure. I didn't tell you much about this, but we know exactly, I think, what log structure I'm going to put on this. And I'll just give you an example here of some of the issues involved. Step 2 was construct a log crepant log resolution. And so, you know, we are doing some log by rational geometry. And so step 3 then is going to be smooth, you know, the form. This log resolution y diagram. That's okay. That's and show that the general fiber is a Fano variety, and so yeah, y dagger is no longer Fano variety. It's a log crepant map, so all the exceptional stuff, the canonical class is 0 there. And so we want to see that when you deform, the non-Fano locus disappears. And you know, if you think about the cubic surface, those lines are there, but they disappear. They do disappear. The 27 lines are the lines through those 3 by 3 by 3 points. Yellow lines disappear. I'm going to have to stop.